What it do, NMA crew? Hey man, listen, today I'm going to be talking about Negative Positive Angler. It's an anime that I just finished. I think it's one of the most underrated anime of 2024. Came out last fall, and it is a slice of life slash sports kind of deal. It's about fishing, so it doesn't really fit into the traditional sports genre, but I guess literally it would. And it's absolutely fantastic. It has a very adult cast ensemble, great dramatic, impactful moments, especially towards the end. And each episode takes a fairly unique approach to its storytelling, and I found it to be really interesting, really engaging. There's actually a surprising amount of production value behind it as well. Maybe not production value, but it at least looks and sounds good. There's talent there. So yeah, this shouldn't be too long of a rant because it's a fairly quaint show which has a simple mission statement and executes it pretty well. It is a show about a guy who is essentially suicidal, but he also has a terminal illness. So it's that classic. I guess it's not classic, but I actually first found out about this anime while on a podcast, and I was really harping on about how much I like the dynamic of a guy who is terminally ill and like having to come to terms with the fact that he is close to the end of his life, whether he likes it or not, but also has that constant urge to die. It's like the urge to live and the urge to die simultaneously all at once in this giant, confusing, absurd little tangle, which I really, really like. There was a lot of absurdist comedy, especially towards the beginning with like the mobsters following him, where like they were clearly threatening his life, but in like the goofiest way. And I was really into that. I was hoping the show was going to take that direction. It really didn't. And I didn't mind that. I thought I would. It's, more generically about something else I happen to have a particular liking for, which is it's about optimism, positivity, how to cultivate that, particularly the metaphor of fishing for interpersonal relationships, as basically fishing is a game of numbers. It's not anything that you can ever be certain about. But there's like so much you can do. There's so much you can learn about and study and look into in terms of like, the currents and, the breed of the fish and what sort of bait to use and how deep the bait should go and what type of rod or lure you're supposed to use at what time of day during what weather conditions. And after you collect all the data from one day, what does that mean about how the next day is going to go based on like the season? Yeah, there's like a million ways that you can analyze it to increase your chances, but at the end of the day, you have to go out, you got to cast your reel, and you have to just enjoy your time there fishing. Because no matter how much you study and no matter how much you prepare, there will be times where you're just drawing blanks, And you have to maintain a positive angle, hence the name, Negative Positive Angler. It's a bit of a pun that for some reason works in English. But you have to maintain a bit of a positive attitude in order to enable you to continue to put yourself out there, pretty much. Like, you're going to have to be positive because no matter what you do, things aren't always going to go your way, and you need to be able to get through those moments to get to the end goal. You need to really care about the end goal, pretty much. There's a lot of characters who have very unique relationships with fishing as well as each other in this series. The main girl, Hana, is like just obsessed with it. Her life is fishing. She lives at a convenience store that she has essentially turned into a hybrid convenience fishing shop. There is the main pink hair guy, the cute guy. Pretty good character designs all around, by the way, I have to say. There's definitely some interesting stuff. Not the strongest point of the presentation, but definitely something worth mentioning. But yeah, the pink hair guy has a little bit more of a troubled history with fishing as it relates to his younger brother, their past, a lot of memories that it brings back, and sort of his running away from that entire situation. It's very heartfelt. The main character's relationship with fishing develops and is very deeply looked into over the course of the show. My favorite episode maybe was episode 7, which was narrated by another character, which you don't realize to the end in a pretty funny reveal, but it sort of goes through his process of getting past the overly competitive beginner stage of fishing, where he's just trying to prove himself and sort of losing sight of what got him into it in the first place, as he eventually does come back to the communal sense of it all. Fishing's really neat because it's not only somewhat competitive, depending on how you view it. It's not only a fun way to connect with nature, but it's highly contemplative. There's a lot of downtime. And because of that, it leads to a lot of thoughts like ruminations, letting emotions just sit with you, a lot of times complex emotions. And I really like how this show sort of captures that vibe and that feeling with everything it does. It makes a lot of sense, especially given the premise. But it's very beautiful how it all develops. There are a lot of interesting episodes, especially towards the latter half. The one where the manager's son, he needs to like reconnect with his son, and he wants to give his son everything pretty much to let him know that he cares because, you know, he's divorced from the mother. But at the end of the day, he's just constantly so focused on fishing and everything he would want, and his son on some level just wants to spend time with him. He just wants to have genuine, candid interactions with his father. The son is actually very mature. Basically, he convinces him like, hey, if I catch a big enough fish, you have to get back together with mom, or you have to at least try or something. I don't actually remember the specifics, but he does end up catching the fish, and he has to let it go because, you know, that's just not how it works. And by that point in the episode, he had already learned the depth of his father's care for him. It's definitely a bit of a tearjerker in that episode, but there's a lot of really good ones. The one where it goes through a day in Hana's life was amazing. The one that I mentioned with the narration of Hiro's journey through like learning why he enjoys fishing was a great one. Episode 10, where the main like final conflict happens, was a great one. It ends on a great note. Just tons of great episodes all around. The one with ice, the one where they go like fishing for that weird stuff. I don't remember what it was. They did like a weird type of fishing though, and Hiro talks to Ice, and she has like a really great monologue, and she just has like a really interesting character. The type of character that is realistic and that I would be kind of like jealous of, or at least admire in real life. You know, she's always going. She has so many life experiences. She does so many things, and you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that she's just some like hyper motivated genius. It's just sort of a slightly different issue of like her perspective on life, and she gives a very succinct yet fairly profound view on the main character's sort of conundrum of dying in 2 years ostensibly, and not knowing exactly what to do. So that was an absolutely great episode. There was some really good comedy in there as well. I was consistently impressed by the like shot compositions and the amount of character animation. It wasn't a stellar amount of character animation or anything, but I was like, oh, you know what? This is weirdly budgeted for just like some under the radar slice of life show. And it's really nice. It's sort of refreshing how it's not so hyper polished and shiny and cutesy moe as a lot of other slice of life shows I've seen recently tend to be. It's just plays itself pretty straightforward. Like, there's really not too much reason this is an anime and not a live action series, though admittedly there are some cool cuts. The comedy isn't necessarily this show's greatest strong suit in my opinion, but I liked there were a couple of really creative cuts of visual metaphor and animation. I remember in episode 4, I believe, or maybe 5, when the main character's in the fish shop, during his interview in episode 2 with the convenience store where he like clenches his fists and has his badass moment. There's a lot of like cool little scenes like that. A lot of silly visual quirks, but overall nothing too crazy. You're just going to get really solid presentation here. What the real selling point here is the adult character dynamics, these realistic characters that have these sort of, I mean, I can't think of a better word than nonchalant dynamics with each other. Like, a lot of them don't go through these overly dramatic character arcs or anything. There's really just two. They just have relationships that genuinely and organically develop over time. They don't develop to a point that feels unnatural or preachy. Like, there's never any moments where I'm like, oh, okay, this character's just, you know, going and learning this lesson because the show is trying to communicate this lesson to the viewers. No, it's just all stuff that, like, would happen with a group of friends in their late teens to early 20s who work at a convenience shop and like fishing. I can go into specific examples, but it wouldn't really be all that meaningful. I would just say I seriously recommend checking this show out for yourself. It's definitely a diamond in the rough. It's I wouldn't call it like a hidden masterpiece, or I might not even say it's great, but it's really good and absolutely nobody talks about it, which is just odd. I guess it's not odd, but I was a big fan of this show. I don't have too much to say about it because it's very straightforwardly good in its appeal. So if you like adult, I mean, you know, take that with a grain of salt. I don't think I'm any authority on dictating whether or not things are adult as a dumb 20-year-old, but from what I can tell, it's a very adult, realistic, yet lighthearted, yet heartfelt. I guess not really lighthearted. Lighthearted at times, heartfelt at others, realistic, not gritty, but just grounded slice of life show. It's a human drama, not the highest stakes, but really good execution. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. I just want to rant about every anime after I finish it. So yeah, bit of a diamond in the rough. If that sounds like it's something that would appeal to you, I'd definitely recommend at least giving it an episode or two. It's really cool. Have a good one, y'all.